So it turns out the Iranian retaliation attack against the US base in Kuwait did a lot more damage than the Americans admitted. So for context, this is the Iranian retaliation that happened on May 30th after the US just the day before bombed Iranian targets, especially their drone launching units near the Strait of Hormuz. So this is the report from Bloomberg, which says Iran's attack on a US airbase in Kuwait caused more damage than America admitted. Goes on to say, while Kuwait's air defenses intercepted the Fateh missile, falling debris caused the base and reportedly injured 5 people, including US contractors and active duty US personnel. It also seriously damaged 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones at the Ali Al Salem airbase, and this is being reported by Bloomberg. And here is a video showing the Iranian missile on its way to go and hit the US base in Kuwait that was captured by users on the ground and uploaded to social media. And this is a video showing the debris from the fallen or destroyed US MQ-9 drones that was shot down by the Iranians. Each of them cost $30 million, by the way. And here is someone that filmed the destruction. And I say that the US is in denial about this attack because this same base in Kuwait has been hit multiple times by the Iranians, and yet the US still launched attacks from these bases. So this is military analyst Patricia Marines, who goes on to say Iranian attacks on base in Kuwait destroy drones and injures 5 Americans. Okay, she goes on to say, on May 28th, during a period of high tension and fragile negotiations to extend a ceasefire between Washington and Tehran, several clashes had been occurring in the Gulf and in Hormuz, with Iranian fast boat attacked by drones and IRGC coastal installations bombed. So this is talking about the US attack, including targets on Karg Island. And then she goes on to say, what is most surprising is that some attacks were originating from the Ali Al Salam air base in Kuwait, which the US obviously owns, which was bombed several times by Iran during the war. And after the Iranians confirmed that the attacks were also originating from Kuwait, Iran's IRGC launched a Fateh missile, injured about 5 people, including US military personnel, and damaged 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones, as we just saw. And Patricia goes on to say, once again, the total negligence of CENTCOM in conducting operations exactly on the border with Iran and using installations that were proven to be easy targets for Iran during the war draws attention. And then she goes on to say, it is the false certainty of omnipotence, which so far has been America's greatest enemy in this war, marked by this type of negligence since February of 28. So she's saying that the US cannot get themselves to admit that they've been beaten militarily by Iran. And so even though they know that this base is very vulnerable to Iranian missiles, they still attacked Iran from this base. And then the obvious happened. Iran attacked the base and injured a bunch of US soldiers. Anyways, Patricia goes on to say, and the preparation of the theater of operations seems to have not changed of the US. On the contrary, I noticed that air bases in the Emirates, which are also very vulnerable, are being equipped and receiving weapons. Then Iran will go ahead and bomb them to bits. And while all this is happening, Pete Hegseth is being made fun of worldwide for doing these unbelievably cringe exercises. As you can see here, I mean, my man, what are you doing? And this is why the US military is in the state that it's in, getting absolutely slapped up by a middle power like Iran, because the Secretary of War is out here doing these unbelievably cringy warm-up routines. And as you can imagine, after the Bloomberg report came out saying that Iran not only hit the US base, but destroyed 2 MQ Reaper drones and injured 5 US soldiers, US politicians are being asked about this, even on Fox News, and this is how they responded.
News. Bloomberg is reporting that there were Iranian missile strikes that injured several Americans at a Kuwaiti airbase. We know the president was in the Situation Room for about 2 hours yesterday. He's been very clear, no dust, no deal. There could also be votes about Iran next week, war powers votes. Where do you think things stand?
Well, I talked to the president most recently last night about all of this, and you're right. He has dialed in on it. We've got to get the Strait of Hormuz reopened, and we've got to get this to a situation where there's no kinetic conflict. The Iranians, there's a bunch of al-jihadis over there, right? And the new leadership, I think, wants to bring an end to this conflict. I certainly hope they do.
So wait, it's the Iranians that hit the US soldiers, injured them, and also destroy 2 US MQ Reaper drones. but it'll be the Iranian leadership that wants to give up and surrender. Makes no sense. So where are the Iranians when all this is happening, right? Well, they're out celebrating. As you can see here, massive crowds of Iranians in Azadi Square in Tehran are out to show support to their government and celebrate after the Iranians shot down the US MQ-9 Reaper drones. As you can see, the Iranians are really proud that they are not just surviving in this war against the United States, but they're thriving militarily and pushing the United States back. And they're really, really proud to do so because they know that after this war is over, which looks like Iran is going to win, Iran is going to come out of this war as the fourth center of power. This is according to Professor Robert Pape of the University of Chicago, who's a expert in military affairs. And according to Professor Robert Pape, after what he's seen in this war, he believes that Iran, because it has proven to the world that it can control the Strait of Hormuz, and even the US military cannot stop it, makes Iran the entity that can control 20% of the world's oil. Just for reference, Russia controls about 11% of the world's oil, and that alone makes it a superpower militarily. Now, Iran will control almost double that. So just think about how powerful Iran is going to be. And as you can imagine, this is becoming really difficult for the US to accept. And so the US is basically in denial and are going around telling anyone who will listen that the Iranians and all of their military victories against the United States or achievements were not of the Iranian doing, but they either got lucky or it was the Chinese that helped them, right? So the US officials, so this news came out today, US officials believe that the F-15 fighter jet that was shot down over southwestern Iran was struck by a Chinese-made shoulder-launched missile. They also think that China provided Iran with long-range early warning radar that spots stealth aircraft that are meant to evade detection. And the US is doing this because the US sells these F-15 fighter jets or a lot of these fighter jets to other countries for a lot of money, right? So many, many, many millions of dollars. And if Iran, a middle power, can go and shoot down these fighter jets, then all of these other countries that the US sells these jets to will look at the United States and say, yeah, well, why would I pay so much money for your F-15 fighter jet if an Iranian-made air defense system can go and hit it and take it out of the sky, right? So this is why the United States and US media are now changing the story to say that no, it wasn't Iran, it was actually Chinese technology, and that's the only technology on earth that can shoot down these fighter jets. And the funniest thing is the Iranians won't even need these fancy radars that the Americans say that the Iranians got from China to go and hit US aircrafts and US military personnel. Because according to journalist Matt Stoller, who says, turns out targeted advertising has allowed Iran to target US troops by buying data on where they are, right? This is being reported by Reuters, and this is such a indictment on capitalism, right? Because the Iranians, instead of doing all of this, can just go to data brokers and buy the data of where US soldiers are located in the Gulf states or all over the Middle East. And once they have the data, they can easily go and target them. And the US military getting their ass kicked by Iran is really bad news for Israel as well as Benjamin Netanyahu. So this is coming to us from Al Mayadeen, who report Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu views the emerging US-Iran agreement as nothing short of disastrous development and has placed responsibility on US President Donald Trump, according to a senior political source cited by Al Monitor. According to Al Monitor, the agreement has intensified speculation within Israel about Netanyahu's political future, where he could be forced to resign to avoid losing the upcoming elections and risk prison time over his corruption charges. So Netanyahu is basically putting all of his bets on the US defeating this Iranian regime and then replacing it with a puppet government that will be subservient to the US and thereby Israel. But Netanyahu and the rest of us did not expect the US military to be, frankly, as weak as they are. And now Netanyahu is really worried that if he cannot provide the Israeli power players and the people with a defeated Iran, then the Israeli elections, which are slated for sometime later this year, will happen and Netanyahu will lose. If you've enjoyed this update and video, subscribe and like for more.